What it do, baby? Welcome back, y'all. If this isn't a welcome back, let me introduce myself. My name's Chris, and you might have heard that I know how to read, allegedly. And we're bringing it back, episode 3 of Brave New Roll, my favorite series that I do on this channel, where I take one of these, which is a 20-sided die, I roll it, we add a 0 to whatever number we get, and that's how many pages I have to read for the day. Very important episode, episode 3, because before, in the previous episodes, we have used this, the Brave New Roll box, which once unassembled in a very loud manner, if I remember how to do this, we have a little rolling tower that we could roll our dice down and get an answer. But we've upgraded, and now we have the Tome of Dice. Look at this, a 3D printed dice roller situation here that has room to store the dice inside of it. Like, what are we doing? Episode 3, we are now upgrading to the new Tome of Dice, but this is actually day 2. I filmed day 1 yesterday. So let's cut to day 1 and then we'll do our roll for day 2. Let's go. All right, y'all, so the reason that we are cutting back to the past is because, as you can tell, it's nighttime. I wanted to have like a better looking intro, but I wanted to actually start this challenge today. So I have the dice that we're gonna be using right here, and then I also have our brand new dice roller, which I am honestly like fully in love with. Also, while setting up the camera for this video, I have come with the sudden urge to buzz cut my hair again. So I think I'm gonna do that. So the next clip you might see of me might be with different hair, just a heads up. I have my phone in my hand so y'all can see the roll, but I also have in my hand She Who Became the Sun. And I think no matter how many pages we get tonight, we are going to be reading from this book. I haven't read from this book in probably like a month or two, and I am only on page 53, and I was really enjoying the previous 52 pages, but I'm excited to hop back into Parker Chan's book. Let's see how many pages of it we're gonna be reading tonight. Like, I already finished reading Frankenstein, but it looks so dope that it stays on my nightstand. We have our tome right here, and we have our die that, you know, not even trying to, already matches the book. So we'll take that. How many pages of She Who Became the Sun are we gonna be reading today? And that is, that dot designates that it is a 6, so we are going to be reading 60 pages. And that's definitely a lot of pages, don't get me wrong, but it is a decent chunk. I honestly think if we had hit 200, I would have started this video tomorrow. But I think I'm gonna get some water and then cook some popcorn, and then we're already started. Brave New Roll, episode 3, let's go. We are going to cut to the phone camera so y'all can see our roll. I was listening to Circles by Mac Miller. Great album, R.I.P. Mac. We read 60 pages yesterday. How many pages are we gonna read today? Another 60. Hey, we'll take those. I made it a decent way through She Who Became the Sun last night, 60 pages. I started on page 53. But I realized I haven't even talked about the books that we're going to be reading in this video, so let's do that. First and foremost, we are going with She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, which is a reimagining of the rise to power of the Ming Dynasty's founding emperor. 113 pages into this, and I'm liking it a lot. It seems like a Mulan situation, but written for adults with a little bit more of like a historical context. And even now when I'm saying that, that's like a complete underselling of how great the writing in this book is. I spilled water on myself, oh no. I realize I should probably give a summary of what I've read so far. So you have this young woman who is unnamed in the first few chapters of the book, but she lives in a very, very poor village with her brother and her father. Now, her brother and father, they don't really care about her or women in general at all, right? To the point that when these rebels come through their village and attack them and try to rob them, her father offers her up as tribute to these rebels, like, please take my daughter and spare the life of my son and I. This isn't a spoiler, it sets the scene. for the rest of this is a 400-page book, and I'm barely 25% of the way there. This is not a spoiler, I promise. So this sets the young woman on a journey, right? Like, she is not going to let the way that her brother and father treated her bring her down, right? Now, a few days before their passing, they end up going to this like incredibly smart, like magical, like gypsy almost of a person who lets them know that her brother is destined for great things in life. And this is where the Mulan situation comes in, right? So she knows that she wants better for herself, and she knows that her brother was destined for better things. So what she decides to do is dress up like a boy and take her brother's name, which I'm looking at it right now, is Zhu Chongba. She takes her brother's name and goes to this distant monastery where she's hoping they will accept her so she can find a home, food, and learn, hopefully, just like something beyond her poor village, right? And so we have this young girl who, as of this point that I am in the reading, page 113, we don't know her real name. She was unnamed in the beginning of the book, and now she has taken her brother's name. She is like binding her chest. She is wearing like monk clothes that kind of like hide her figure and things like that. And she is trying to learn and trying to become greater than the situation she was placed in with her father and her brother. And I'm looking at this now. I didn't realize this book was so long. This is a 400-page book, and I am on page 113. So I'm not even, or I'm barely, I should say, a quarter of the way there. But even in these first 100 pages, this book is very like coming of age. It is very emotional. It is very like devastating almost, like the situation that this young girl has like been placed in. Oh, before I forget, and this is like a really interesting part, like before I forget, this young woman can see ghosts. And I know that's crazy that I forgot that, but it has not really been focused on that much. When she buries her father and her brother, she sees like their spirits conversing over the grave that she has placed them in. And even with her time at the monastery, she notices that there are more ghosts and more spirits like at certain periods of time in the monastery throughout the year than at other times. That hasn't really been like crazy emphasized so far in the book, but I'm really excited to see if there's like more of a magical, like supernatural element that we just haven't gotten to yet in these first 100-ish pages. But so far, this book is really cool. I'm really loving our main character. I feel like in the last few books that I've read, I have loved a lot of the side characters more than I've liked our main character. And I think this is a book, especially when like she's like the titular she, you know, like I'm really enjoying our main character, and I love their mindset and like everything that they're going through. Like they're so resilient, and Shelley Parker Chan does a good job of writing their story. So we're gonna read 60 pages out of this today, but I've talked about it in previous videos, but I've really been trying to make my way through my physical TBR because I really only have about 12 or 13 books on there, and a few of them are rereads. So I'm thinking I want to knock a few of the rereads out and then work my way down like my actual books that like I've never read before. So I'm thinking like with this supernatural thing that hasn't really been touched upon so far, at least not a lot, in She Who Became the Sun, I kind of want to go for another magical realism vibe. So if we finish this book in this Brave New World video, I think I'm going to do it. And I think I'm going to reread one of my favorite books ever, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Hey y'all, editing Chris from the future here. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't 100 Years of Solitude. I ended up picking up Sapiens, and I don't know why. I just fully forgot that I meant to read 100 Years of Solitude, but I'm reading Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Just forget I even mentioned 100 Years. I don't know why I didn't go with that book.
I definitely won't be able to get all of my reading done before I head to work, so I will get some of it done now, and then I'll catch up with y'all tonight. Let's go, Brave New World, episode 3. I'm hyped. Oh my god. That's the sound of someone who didn't want to read 60 pages last night before they went to bed, but did. We are now on page 174, actually. I was supposed to read until 173, but we are on page 174 of She Who Became the Sun, and I have some thoughts. This was billed to me as like a historical fantasy, maybe more so fiction than fantasy epic, right? And I will say that maybe epic wasn't the best use of the word for it, because again, only 170 pages and maybe like a third of the way into the book. Not a lot of epic stuff has happened. There was this really dope scene, and again, I don't want to delve into too many like actual spoilers in this book. There was a really dope scene where our main character is a soldier in a rebel army, and they are about to fight this eunuch general's army, and like that whole scene in the book was really cool. But in terms of like epicness, not a lot has really happened in that front. And I also kind of expected this book to be a little more like action-packed, if that makes sense. Again, I'm not too far into the book. I'm sure it's going to pick up towards like the middle, kind of later half of the book. But like a lot of what has been going on right now is a lot of talk on like destiny and greatness and gender identity and freedom and family, which is all great things. Like I love reading about all that stuff, but it also wasn't like kind of what I was expecting when I came into this book. So I'm interested to see kind of how the second 2/3 of the story goes. But day 3, episode 3, Brave New World, and I was not prepared for this. I have no idea where anything is. Recording Inception, but to the cellular we go. With this weird creepy hand I 3D printed watching, let's see what roll we get today. We have our tome of dice. We have our die. Wrong way. Our amber die. Let's see what we get. 16. That means your boys got to read 160 pages today. I'm going to be very honest with y'all. I don't know if I got that in me, but we're going to try our hardest. I have to fold some laundry and then I have to start getting ready for work pretty immediately after that. So I'm not exactly sure if I'll be able to read before I go to work. Either way, I'm going to be up pretty late tonight reading, so let's cut to that. Let's go. Glasses are off, folks. That's how you know we're about to have a serious conversation. So it's the next day, right? It's the next night, and unfortunately, I have not done my reading for this day that I'm filming, so we might have a lot of reading to get to. But I want to talk about the big chunk that I read because we had to read 160 pages. I did read those 160 pages and I might have cheated a little bit. Y'all tell me if this is cheating. So I knew yesterday 160 pages was a lot. I didn't get to read a lot before work. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get all of my physical reading done if it was just physical reading. So I checked on my Libby app and I was able to get our girl's book right here, Parker Chan's book. I was able to get it on Libby. So I ended up listening to about 50, maybe like 55, if I remember correctly, of our 160 pages. I'm a cheater. I cheated. What do you expect from me? I cheated. And the reason I say that I cheated is because I feel like the main point of these videos is to kind of focus on physical reading, whether that's with an actual book or whether that's on an e-reader. And I think in previous episodes, I've kind of strayed away from using audiobooks, but I think it kind of just worked out with this book right here because I was able to get it on Libby immediately. Let me know what y'all think. Should audiobooks be allowed in this sort of style of video? Because I think part of the challenge is making time out of your day and making sure that you have a physical book in front of you or like an e-reader or something like that. And, you know, eyes on page, you know, but I also do think that that's kind of an unrealistic expectation, especially like this ain't my full-time job. I wish it was, like and subscribe, but this ain't my full-time job, so I don't always have enough time to read 160 pages, you know, that'll take me a few hours. But with all that out of the way, I'm noticing now I did take off my bookmark, so that's going to be a little difficult to remember where I was, but I started on 173, so 160 on top of that would be like 330-ish. I remember I stopped, yeah, exactly on chapter 19 of this book. And I have, the reason the glasses are off, the reason we're having an important conversation is because I'm kind of enjoying this book less the more that I read it. Unfortunately, just being excited to read this book has led me to kind of have, or to give it, I should say, expectations that weren't really like there. Like I shouldn't have given the book these expectations to live up to. Because I really thought this was going to be like some badass historical fantasy about, instead of there being a male Ming Dynasty emperor, to being a female badass who's out there doing all this stuff, all this killing, all this action, all this whatever. And this book is not that. I think I mentioned it in yesterday's clip. This book is all about like gender identity and love and destiny. Like, and I was really vibing with our main character, but the more I read about our main character, she's giving like a season 1, season 2 of Zuko vibes. You know what I'm talking about?
My honor, my throne, my country. I'm about to lose them all.
And while I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, and especially towards the end of my 160 pages, like page 300 to 330, we started seeing a different side to our main character that I really enjoyed, where they are now like, they go from monk to this like very powerful like leader of a battalion of soldiers, and like you start to see them become more comfortable with their like use of power and use of authority, and that's cool, and like that's what I really wanted to see. And it sucks that I'm seeing that on page 300-ish of 400, you know? Again, I am on page 330, 19. I don't know if this is going to change in these last 70, 75 pages, but I will say that a lot of the fantasy elements that were hyped up about this book are very, very low stakes. Like, there are some, like, magical fire creation moments, as well as a few characters being able to see and or maybe communicate with spirits, with ghosts, but it hasn't really had like the biggest impact on the story. It's just there. Now, part of me really wants to like this book a lot more than I do, and I'm hoping that these last few pages kind of change that, because we're headed on an upward trajectory when it comes to our main character. Like I loved our main character at the beginning, and then it's gone down a little bit, but now we're back up. We have to do our roll for today, and I don't want to forget that. But I just checked, and we have 76 pages until the end of this book. So I think anything 1 through 8, I'm probably just going to finish the book. And unless something crazy happens in these last 76 pages, I'm probably sticking to around a 3-star, which kind of bums me out because I really wanted to like this book more. But if someone came up to me and said, hey, you can never read, like once you do your first initial reading, you can never read She Who Became the Sun again, and I'm kind of okay with that. And if that isn't the definition of like a 2 or 3-star book, I don't know what is. All right, y'all, we're back to the dusty bedside table. Shout out my Frankenstein video if you haven't seen that. I really enjoyed Frankenstein a lot more than I'm enjoying this book, honestly. But we have our amber dice right here. Let's see what we get. Oh my God, we actually got 7. That's crazy. Yo, I honestly did not expect to get 7. Whatever deities you do or don't believe in, I hope you believe in the dice gods, because they've been blessing me with perfectly mid rolls. But yeah, we got a 7. That's 70 pages. Let's hurry up and finish this book. I was supposed to do a montage. I was supposed to do a time lapse. We were going to cut, and we were going to have this cool montage of me finishing reading She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. Unfortunately, we had to put a stop to that real quick, and let me tell you why. I was on chapter, 19? I am now on chapter 21, and I know what you're thinking, Chris. What could happen? Yeah, and you've been asking for it. You've been asking for something crazy to happen in these last 70 whatever pages to make you feel like reading this book was worth it. And you know what it was? I'm not monetized, right? I'm not monetized on YouTube, but I also don't want to risk demonetization. I don't want to get used to the habit of risking demonetization. This was an actual text I sent my roommate. And my roommate got a bedtime. She goes to sleep way before I do. She's snoozing right now. And I had to send this to her. As a friend, I needed her to know this information. And I understand, right? I understand this book is all about like learning about yourself and learning what it feels to be in your body, learning what it feels like to adopt an identity, to be who you think you are, and also to challenge what other people expect of you. Like, I understand that's the main messaging of this book. The whole historical fiction and the whole like magical realism, whatever this book wants to say it is kind of pushed to the side over, or I should say under, the main subject matter, which is like identity and all that, which there's obviously nothing wrong with. And I don't want to be a hater. I understand being a hater gets views, but like if I finish a book, the odds I give it less than 3 stars is kind of crazy. But like my biggest problem, and I've said this before in my romance video, I don't like smut, I don't like sex scenes that don't have a point in the story, that are like useful towards getting some messaging across, right? And I don't understand what the messaging of the first 2 pages of chapter 21 are. And maybe I'm stupid, right? I don't mind being stupid. I don't mind being dumb. I understand that like I'm not gonna get every message or every subliminal in a text, in a writing, right? And there were definitely times when I was reading Crime and Punishment that I didn't understand what was going on. But in Crime and Punishment, they were talking about crime and morality and what it means to be a good or a bad person. I don't know what this scene is supposed to symbolize. Luckily, it was only 2 pages though, so maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing, but I was already feeling kind of mid about this book, and after that, like, it kind of left, I don't even want to say the phrase that left a bad taste in my mouth. Yuck. All right, y'all, if y'all hear noise, it's because my 3D printer is going crazy right now. All right, y'all, next day, and we have finished She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, and I
wasn't the biggest fan. Pardon the rhyme. I think I was expecting more like action. I was expecting more adventure. And while there was action and there was adventure, I just didn't feel like I got what I wanted from our main character. Yeah, that last scene is the last scene, and like you can get over that, like you can skip past that without missing too much to the overall story. But also they just like off-screen murder a character that up to this point has been revered, that is the future of this rebel army, and like an accident happens and they're gone, and now Zhu Chongba is like the leader of this rebel city, this rebel army, and like that's cool. And I'm sure like the next book kind of like builds on a lot of the stuff that this book has set up, and also hopefully improves on a lot of the stuff that I have a problem with. I just am not really interested in reading the other book. I think this is a very solid 3-star. It's about as 3-star of a book as you're going to get. But with that in mind, I am a little disappointed that the book wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. But also, maybe the book wasn't for me. If you're the type of person that likes, you know, historical fiction with a little bit of fantasy elements, with a whole bunch of talk on the mind and the self and what it means to be a man or a woman or a person, what greatness means. Again, Zuko and Avatar: The Last Airbender, that's the vibe we kind of get from our main character. I think a lot of people would like this book, and I don't know like exactly what ratings it has on like Goodwill or Fable or anything like that, but I have heard like a lot of very positive things about this book. But I think for me, it's about as flat of a 3-star as we're gonna get. Next up, where'd you go? Bruh. Doing a reread of one of my favorite books of all time. We got Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. But Sapiens is interesting and provocative. It gives you a sense of perspective on how briefly we've been on this earth, how short things like agriculture and science have been around, and why it makes sense for us to not take them for granted. That's for our boy, or for my boy, excuse me, B.O. Him and I go way back. Don't ask questions, just know him and I go way back. I'm very excited to hop back into this, and this looks and feels like a textbook. Like the pages are super thick, the pictures are all in color and stuff like that. And the first time I read this was on my Kindle, so I'm very excited that I was able to go to New York and get a physical copy of this, and I'm very excited to reread this again. But in order to do that, we have to figure out how many pages we are going to be reading today. So I got the phone here. Let's see. Here you go. Roll dice.
4.
That's such weak sauce number. You're weak sauce. My roommate is weak sauce. We got a 4, so we're reading 40 pages of Sapiens today. Again, we've been blessed with low numbers these past 4 days. I don't think 40 pages gets us past the intro. Oh no, 40 pages gets us to the beginning of chapter 3, A Day in the Life of Adam and Eve. I got food that's gonna be in the oven for a little bit. I got some chores I gotta do, so we're gonna do that. And then we're gonna get started reading 40 pages on day 4. Let's go. A few hours later, and the 3D printer is still going nuts. Look at that thing. It's going crazy. It's pretty late, but I did want to give an update that we finished our 40 pages of this book right here, Sapiens, A Brief History of Mankind, and I'm so happy to get back into this. If you don't follow me on Instagram already, please do, at chrisreads_YT. I'm trying to post on there more often, but one of the things I did post on there this morning was how excited I was to be able to annotate this. And there's like color pictures and stuff. This is a textbook. That's what this is. This is a textbook. But even then, like even in 40 pages, like I've already highlighted and underlined a whole bunch of stuff. I do remember why I like this book, and it's because I'm a giant dweeb and a giant nerd, and I love history. And this book, when I first read it, and especially now, makes me remember like how much fun it is to learn. And I don't know what secret sauce Yuval Noah Harari put in this book to make it so fun to read. What is essentially a textbook. I don't know what they put in this, but it's damn good. It is also damn late, so I'm gonna head to bed, and then tomorrow morning we will do our last roll in Brave New World episode 3. Thank y'all for sticking along. Leave a like down below, comment, all that business. I'll do my whole goodbye at the end of the video, but thank y'all for watching this channel, this video, this series, everything and all stuff that I put out. I really appreciate it. Let's get some Z's, and then we'll do some rolls. Let's go. All right, y'all, it is the next day, and I promise I don't like recording at night, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. I just got home from work, and it is pretty late, but I also don't have to go to work tomorrow. So if I have to stay up late reading 200 pages or something like that, I'm not really stressing about it because I am able to sleep in, so I'm blessed for that. But we have to do our cute little dice roll, so let's get everything ready for that. And we're actually going to do an in between the camera
Tripod trick shot. So we got the dice right here. Let's see what we get. 7. I could do 70 pages. I could do 70 pages. And honestly, if it was anything more than like 12, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. So I'm happy with 7. So what have we got in this past week? I guess we'll do that in like the wrap up or whatever. But I feel like we've been sticking pretty low. I think like 16 was the highest number we got. It is a lot of reading we have to do, but it's a book that I like to read, a book that will hold my attention, honestly. Like, I don't want to be reading something that'll make me fall asleep. And it has pictures, so we'll take it.
One day later.
All right, y'all, it is the next day, and I read 12 of the 70 pages I was supposed to read. In the time lapse, you can see me fall asleep, literally fall asleep mid-read, and after that, I decided I'm just not gonna do it. So we did fail. We did fail on episode 3 of Brave New World, but overall, I think it was a pretty good episode, if I do say so myself. Where's my copy of She Who Became the Sun? It's right here. We got through one entire book right here, even though I had already read maybe about like 30 or something pages. I forget where we started on She Who Became the Sun, and I got about maybe 60 something pages into one of my favorite books of all time, which is Sapiens. And I've already talked about it earlier in the video, but She Who Became the Sun is kind of the definition of mid, and I know there is a sequel out, which I've heard better things about. I've heard the sequel is actually better than this first book right here, but even then, I'm not like crazy enticed to read it. Thank y'all for watching this video. Thank you for making it to this point in the video. If you liked this video, make sure you let me know by leaving a like down below. Make sure you also leave a comment on, one, is it cheating in this kind of sort of style of video to use audiobooks? Because I think I used audiobooks in day 2 or 3. And what do you think about our tome of dice that we got going on over here? Because I'm a pretty big fan of it. And if you like this video or anything I said or anything I did or any of my other videos that I got on this channel, make sure you subscribe. That way you get notified anytime I upload a video. I love Brave New World. Brave New World is not going away anytime soon, so hopefully you'll be subscribed for the next time we upload a video. Do something that makes you happy. Do something that makes you some money. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.